What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to the Big News Podcast with me, your host, Paul Hughes. Our guest today is a very, very special one. Someone I feel very privileged and honoured to have here in the studio. Someone that was very, very high on the list of people that I want to speak to in this podcast when it begun. So my guest today is, I think, one of the greatest singer-songwriters that the island of Ireland has ever produced, no question. He's been touring internationally for over 10 years solo, has also toured with legends such as Ed Sheeran, has worked extensively with other legends such as, I was going to say Mr. Elton John, but it's Sir Elton John.
There you go.
So I got that right. Foy is personally one of my favourite artists of all time. So I feel very, very privileged and honoured to have him here today. So today's guest is Mr. Foy Vance. Foy, what's the crack?
Wow, that was quite the intro. There's no way you're going to
From the
redo
heart.
that.
No, that's off the
There
dome.
you go,
Off
there you
the
go.
dome.
First take.
I've never had to do a second take, so just trying to speak from the heart, you know?
Well, that's quite the intro, Paul.
What's the story, bro?
The story's good. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
My main concern being here is that I think I need to make sure that I remember to answer some questions because I have a lot that I want to ask you. Actually,
Oh, absolutely. Well, here, as I say, like we've got time.
Good.
You know,
good.
so we can
I'm
talk
glad
about
to have
everything. I think so. You're gonna have to let me just fanboy out for a couple of minutes here, but it's also context to how we met as well.
it. Right.
So, known you for about 5 years now. Would you believe that?
Wow.
5 years.
Since we first met,
Yeah.
I've been following you longer than that. It feels like.
5 to 6 years, I would say, but been mates for about 5 years.
Yeah.
You know, so it started off. So I was initially, and still am, of course, a big fan of yours. I went to, in fact, actually, how I got introduced to you was through Ryan McMullen. I was at a show of his in, was the Ulster Hall, I think, and you came on and sung with him, and I was like, "Who the fuck's your man?" I was like, "He's local," and my sister, her fiance, are big fans. So I get into you then. I went to one of your shows in the Waterfront. I took my ma down. She's a fan also. So we went down to the show and I was like blown away. I was like, this is unbelievable because I'd obviously become a big fan, be listening to the music, went to the show and I was like, that was so good. So I went the next night and bought another ticket, went by myself, went to the second show in the Waterfront.
Wow.
So I begun as a huge fan of yours. So how we actually got first introduced was, I don't know if you remember this.
I know my memory of
But
it.
at the end of the year, Spotify, they do a Spotify Wrap, so it's your most listened to artists. My most listened to that year was yourself. And what they do, they you can share it to your social medias. It's shared out and it tagged you on Twitter. And it was like you were my most listened to artist of the year. And you tweeted me back saying something like, I hope you don't fucking train to that music or something like that.
Did, yeah.
But anyway, that was how we initially met and we stayed in contact from then. And been mates ever since. We've been shooting the shit on all things related to music, but fighting
Yeah.
especially,
Yeah,
and that's how
fighting.
we've really connected. Like, so my first kind of what I wanted to talk to you about was like, where did this love of fighting come from? Because I remember you mentioning to
I was
me,
born here.
yeah. But I remember you saying to me one time, there's like few real arts left in the world, something along those lines. It was like music,
Yeah.
fighting, and comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's
So
how
where did that come
I feel
from?
like comedy and fighting are the two art forms that inspire me or sort of challenge me the most. Kind of I mean, like fighting. Let's call it what it is. Fighting is at the spearhead of that. It's the head of comedy because you're putting your very life on the line, right? That's kind of how much
Yeah,
faith do you
it's-
have in the art that you know? I don't have that kind of faith. I don't
Yeah.
mind going out and hitting the wrong chord and looking like a dick for a minute.
Yeah.
But the thought of getting caught with a heel in the temple, but you know what I mean? That's kind of
Yeah.
so. Just I think it's that the ability to believe in that way and to go there. I find that an inspiring way to approach songwriting. Like, for instance, gospel music, before anyone made money from it, when people were writing gospel music and they were singing these songs of like, you know, deep emotion, deep pain, but a hope in their pain, and they're emoting this for no other reason than just they had to. There was nothing to gain from it. They weren't going to be on the cover of Rolling Stone. They weren't going to get royalties every month. No one was going to start following them on Instagram. It wasn't about that. there was a real truth to it, and I feel like fighting is it's all truth once you're in there, right? I mean, I guess that's what I'm intrigued to ask you. That's certainly what it seems like to me from the outside, because I can see, like I don't know a lot about fighting, but I know enough about people. Like, for instance, when I watched Jose Aldo walk into the ring, with the Conor McGregor, that one, it was clear he'd already lost, right? Did you see
The
that?
tense, the tightness,
Everything,
the
his
reads.
body language,
Yeah.
everything about his body language. When you see an actor in a movie and like they're saying their lines and all, but their
But it's off.
physicality's off, and you're going, "What? He doesn't look like he belongs there."
Yeah.
That's what. So when you see someone like not blowing smoke, genuinely, someone like yourself in your last fight there, just in that window, like in the eye of a storm of nothing else.
Yeah.
I know when I'm singing, nothing else exists, and I can only imagine when you're fighting, it must be like that, just intensified.
It's you can't be any more vulnerable.
Yeah.
To a degree, unless you're maybe naked.
Well,
that's
the
about
next
the
thing.
last. That's the last hurdle.
Yeah, and UFC.
We could start that.
There you go.
We could start that.
Nufka NI. Come and get your bollocks out. We'll knock the bollocks out of each other.
start the-
Come on now. Roll up, roll up.
And UFC, we're gonna do it.
Fucking hell,
But
yeah. 100 grand to fight Paul Hughes.
Yeah, you can't be any more vulnerable than standing opposite someone for the cage door closes, you've got 15 minutes or 25 minutes and that's it. The world's watching. Like, you can't embarrass yourself. You can't let yourself down. You can't quit. Everything, like the weight of the world's on your shoulder. So that's why it's such a, I think that's why it's such an emotional thing to watch when you know someone involved in the sport or somebody competing too, because obviously there's severe, dire physical consequences if you get hurt, and that's what heightens the whole experience. Like, this is why I say, or what I mean by it's the most vulnerable you can be, because you can get knocked out. And it's funny, I always remind this to my mum. It's like, I'm fine, I'll always remind her, I can get knocked out stiff on TV, or if you're there watching and my head could be completely knocked out and the ref could come late and I could be getting my head pummeled through the canvas. Like, are you aware? Like, I just have to remind her that that is the realities of the sport. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it. Like, it's very vulnerable and pure, I guess.
It
so
is.
is that
You know
where
what?
you kind of see the relation of like presenting your music in a way where it's your soul? Because if you're not presenting that, your music's not going to connect, right?
Well, do you know what it is? It's like, if you're going to say it, you have to just say it.
Yeah.
Like, you can't, it's different than acting it and being it. They're two different things,
Yeah.
right? It's, you have to go there unabashedly.
Yeah.
You have to completely abandon yourself, and
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what it looks like or how it comes out. It could go wrong. Yeah, this
Yeah.
could go fucking horribly wrong. In my case, it would just, sound bad.
Yeah.
And I'd maybe get a bad reputation as a guy that's not
Yeah.
very good live or whatever. You have an off night and it's different. It's interesting that you led with the weight of the world, because weirdly, you looked so relaxed.
Yeah.
Like, you looked. When does the weight of that? Like, is there a moment where that is gone and you're just in the pocket?
Well, that's a good question, because you have to then find your flow state.
Yeah.
You have to find where there isn't. It's not the weight of the world's, I guess, a figure of speech in a way of how the consequences of the fight
Yeah.
to a degree. But when it comes to when you're about to compete, and it's something that I think that I'm personally like different than everybody in, is I can enter that flow state even before the walkout, but I can be there just purely in that moment present, where I'm not even thinking, oh, I'm so confident, I'm going to do so well. There is almost no thought, but that's what my preparation has led me to now become. And it takes years to get there. You don't just get to that position, like that calm, cool-headedness.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get there without the years of seeing what makes you tick, and then having years of proof that in turn gives you the confidence to know that, like, I personally know when I fight, because I've been put in bad positions before in fights, and I've always came through and won. So I know deep down in my soul that I don't have quit in me. Like, I know that because I've been tested to the brink before. So I know that whenever this person throws at me in the cage, there's zero chance of me quitting. He might knock me out, whatever. That's not on me. I know that I'll not quit in there. So I have deep faith and confidence in that. And then, of course, in my preparation as well, they all come together. One doesn't happen without the other. And that's where that comes from for me.
Mate,
Yeah.
I think your hand injuries were the weirdest godsend.
Yeah.
The weirdest godsend.
Yeah.
Because that must have fortified your mind and spirit and belief. You know, because when I would watch those early vlogs, which is why I was so surprised when you reached out and were like about, you know, or the thing came up, Spotify, most listened.
yeah.
I was going, what, Paul Hughes, that scrappy wee fucker from like running around beating the shit out of
Derry.
everyone. What are you in there listening to Homebird while you're, what are you doing? What? So I was really kind of like, wow, I was surprised that you even knew of me, to be honest. Because I was watching you, and it's almost like just watching anything that you see, you know, an artist singing great on the stage or an actor in a movie, and you're like, you don't see the actor, you just see the person. It's only afterwards that you're like, fuck, that was Daniel Day-Lewis. And then you remember, I kind of had a sort of similar feeling. I watched a lot of fighters and a lot of up-and-comers and people saying, oh, check this guy out or this girl out or this boxer or this MMA, whatever. And when I came across you, there was just something in your... It's my time. It's already done up here. Broken hand. Was it this hand? I can't remember.
It was both, but it was more so the right.
Yeah. I was like, you know, it's already done up here, and I don't know. There was something, and I was going, he believes it.
Just belief.
And I started to believe you too. And then the more I followed, I was going, shit. I think he might have been right all those years ago.
Well, you were right. You were right as well.
I
see
was.
that, you know, which is funny. That's why I think it's so funny that, like, I knew you so long ago before. Like, well before world titles, like years before world titles, which is something that I like really appreciate and respect about you too, is like you would have been, I guess you could say, my first famous follower, which I know you probably don't see yourself in that regard, but you know, you get to these positions now and
me and Michael Jackson get that all the time about how famous we are.
But you get to the positions now, you know, like you obviously run into more people within the circles you be in, but it's not people see your success, and of course they're like, you do things together, you become mates, but it's different, I think, when someone that, like, for example, my team's been with me forever. It's not like I've got a new team now just because I'm doing well. It's like my friends and the people that have supported me, I always remember who they are, and you were definitely one of them for me. So I just wanted to say I do appreciate that. But I wanted to, you mentioned gospel music there at the start, and I wanted to talk about it because you had an interesting upbringing. You obviously grew up a lot in Bangor, but you also spent some time in the American South as well.
Well,
so,
Midwest, Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. So what brought you there?
My dad, he was a preacher, and he went out there, I guess, in 74 when I was, the year I was born. He went out, he was a preacher with the Church of Christ, which is kind of like a non-denominational, they're neither, I think they think they're the only ones going to heaven. I think that's how it works.
Sounds like a good deal.
I don't know.
Are they right?
I doubt it. I think we're all right and we're all wrong simultaneously. Don't worry about it. Have a bit of crack and get on with it. Love the ones you love.
Couldn't
you know
agree
what I mean? Yeah. So he went out there as like a preacher to go out and I guess go to a Bible school or something. And they said there was need of building the church, like physically building the church and then building the church in this tiny little town called Canton, Oklahoma. Like now there are, I think like 600 people live there. So 40 years ago, I don't know. I don't know. So my dad went there. He took the job basically and moved the family out and built that church, and we lived there for a bit.
How many years?
It was only like 3 or 4 years, something like that.
So that was when you were just after you were born, you moved out?
Yeah. From I was like 1 to 4 type thing.
Wow.
Yeah, or 2 to 5, something like that. Can't remember. So all my memories of it are really sensory or and compiled through pictures and old audio recordings that we had. We used to send audio recordings back and forth to my granny and granda and cousins and all that. and they would do the same to us. And I've got all those tapes still.
Still?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I would have listened to them a lot growing up. We all would have. So I've built up memories of what it was like. But, a lot of it I was too young to remember. But as you know what, my dad always used to quote the rabbi that said, "Give me the boy to the age of 7 and I'll give you the man."
Uh-huh. Wow.
What
wow.
happens
I've never heard that before.
Have you not?
That's actually really powerful.
Whatever you are, it's formed by, which weirdly will make another appearance when we talk about my album. I think whatever you are by 7, you've got those years to shape the child, I think. And then whatever they are by then is a pretty good representation of what they're going to become, I think.
So how did that shape you then? Spending them
I
such
guess
formative years in
the first footsteps I ever took were on American soil. Were on red dirt in Oklahoma. I've never really thought about that until recently when we were talking. I was talking with my girlfriend Bonnie. She's a Texan, and we were talking about Oklahoma. And she was like, "Wait, so you would have started? So your first footsteps were on American soil?" And you're coming over here telling me America, you know what you guys need to do? You know what else you got wrong?
You're talking shit, and she's like, you grew up in America, like you
took
came
your
here.
first. But I think that's what you do when you come from here. And it's all a bit of crack, really. It's just go around telling everyone else they're shite compared to us.
100%.
Americans
take it very literal.
Yeah,
100%.
And then we come back home and tell each other we're shite.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So like that had to have, as you say, what was the quote? Remind me of the quote again. Show.
Give me the boy to the age of 7, and I will give you the man.
Yeah. Wow, that's very powerful.
Yeah.
So that had to have had a big influence in your music. I can only imagine. Like growing up, I'm sure it was gospel all the time, gospel choirs.
So
bit.
The thing about the Church of Christ, which is strange and makes no real sense, but was kind of cool, is that they didn't allow musical instruments.
Really?
Yeah.
So singing was allowed.
Singing was allowed, but instruments are anti-God unless they're in the house, and then they're God. And then you know what I mean. And it's religion's a funny one, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's kind of people have different. Wear a hat, don't wear a hat. You're going to hell or you're not. It's
Do you? Didn't think I was touching this. Do you have any religious beliefs?
No, not.
What do you think?
I mean, I think we're all religious to a certain degree.
I agree. It's something I've thought about recently.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I had a. This is a bit of a sidetrack, but we're going there.
Yeah,
right?
I didn't think I was. We'd get into religion today.
It's good.
No,
it's good. I turned up at a friend's house a few years ago, and I was in a bit of bad shape, and we were having a chat. And he's a very left guy, and he said something that really kind of shocked me. He said, the older I get, the more religious I get. And usually when people said that at that point in time, my sword would come out, because I've read the Bible, I've passed through that world, and you know what I mean? I can quote some things and I can argue and all that or whatever. But in this particular moment, I was at a low ebb, and he was showing me real kindness, taking me into his house for a minute and looking out for me for a couple of days. And instead of arguing, I just listened. And I just felt myself softening. What he said was, as I say, the older I get, the more religious I get. And when he kind of unpicked it, it was not so much that he wanted to have firm beliefs. It was that when he threw God out the window and all that out the window, he lost so much of how he identified with things and the language he used and how it made sense. And he felt that when he started to regain that and allowed himself that without the kind of weight of God exists or doesn't, it's just managing my life in this way, praying in the morning, reading. For him, it was the Bible. For someone else born somewhere, it might be the Quran or the Sanskrit or the whatever, the Vedas, whatever. For him, it was the Bible, and he felt like, doing that helped, and I kind of, that intrigued me, and I pulled at that thread for a while, and I think I've kind of discovered something similar, that I have I have no answers. I have only questions.
Yeah.
And answers are fucking boring anyway.
Yeah.
Everything's in the question.
Yeah. I heard a quote number of years ago, it's always stuck with me. Spirituality is about questions. Religion is about answers.
Aye. I've no time for answers.
Yeah.
Answers are just something you think you know.
Yeah.
And, you keep digging, you'll find out something else.
Yeah.
It's like, and that goes, I'm not eager to believe anything, quite honestly, even in science
Yeah.
anymore. It's like, there are
Yeah.
200 billion universes. And I'm like, okay, I'm not saying they're not. But what you counted them, did you?
Yeah.
Who counted them?
And then a few years' time, it'll
What's
be
his
like,
name?
it turns out it's actually more than that. So
Aye.
it's okay. So did I believe that? Should I not have believed that?
Yeah.
Should I not have thought that's the answer? Should I kept questioning?
I think we should just be alert all the time.
Yeah.
But that's not the world we live in. And that's
Yeah.
why I like art so much.
Yeah.
That's why I like art so much, because it keeps you awake. It just keeps you alive and keeps you awake and keeps you awake to the possibility that you're the reality that you're not really in control of that much.
Yeah. Connected.
Yeah.
Connected to something. Like that's
Yes.
what art does for people.
Yes.
In this way, I think it's all linked to a certain degree in like a spiritual sense. I guess as well. It depends on what you're defining as God.
Exactly.
As well, are you thinking about God as like the Christian God? Like what is how I've thought about it recently? Because you're growing up, like I grew up in a Catholic family. You get forced to go to mass, and then you're like, right, fuck this. Like I don't believe in any of this shit. Like you start going against it then. And then I started getting older, and it's like I think there's something there. I think everybody to a degree will believe that there's something there. You might like suppress them feelings, say no, it's all there's nothing. But as I've got older, I've started thinking a lot. In fact, a lot more recently about what's there. And when I think of God, I don't think of, I guess in a way, because I grew up with that kind of Christian sense, I think of God in a way of like that. But I've realised that
like a big old guy with a beard.
Yeah,
going,
with a
stop
beard.
you wanking down there. I know what you're doing in that
stop it.
room. I know what you're at down
I
there,
know.
young Hughes.
Exactly.
So crude,
I'm sorry.
You cut that bit out, will you?
No, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. But I've realised like it's your own personal relationship with God is everything. And that's what everyone has. I think just with religions, there's just, for me personally, where I'm at now, this is ever changing. I'm ever questioning this all. But to me, there's just a lot of dogma involved in every like old school religion, and that I just can't subscribe to.
No.
But then I also understand why people do subscribe to it as well. I have total empathy for, like, fully subscribing to the answers and going like, I have faith in these answers. Like, then it gets into the whole topic of faith surrounding that. But yeah, I didn't think we'd get.
Listen,
here.
I think it's not about. I think talking us. It's great conversational fodder.
Yeah.
But us talking about it is like talking to a cat about neuroscience.
Yeah.
Asking your dog to fix your washing machine.
How are we gonna
We
understand
actually
it?
have no
idea.
There was no and a book, a Bible, it's not that isn't. I read the Bible. I love the Bible. It's rich. It's one of the it's one of the richest books. The richest, if you like. It's incredible, and the Quran is incredible, and the Sanskrit's incredible. The Vedas are incredible. There are loads of, but like, if there's enough information in like these tiny little cells in our body to fill 1,000 books or something, isn't it? And in one strain of DNA, it would fill like 600 1,000 page books or 1,000, whatever it is. So that's that, right? And then the known universe, it would take us how many millions of light years to get from one side to the other? And you're telling me the complexities of what created that is in which book again?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You can't comprehend it.
Just stop worrying about what it is and just enjoy your life. Enjoy the people that you're blessed enough to be around. If you're blessed enough to have a life that is okay, you know what I mean?
Yep.
God forbid you wake up being shelled or you wake up unable or, There you go. That's it. Is that an answer? Is that God's answered? Everyone's safe. Go to sleep. Rest well, America.
We figured it out for you, folks.
It is
so
done.
you don't have to.
Ireland,
shit.
rest at peace. All is
Oh, that's
sorted.
brilliant. I didn't think we would get there today into
done.
religion. Like that's
It's
funny.
done. We've ended it.
Yeah. So you come back then from Oklahoma. Talk to me about, I guess, your formative years growing up in Bangor. Like, did you enjoy that experience? How was it for you? A lot of shit going on in the country at the time.
Yeah, but you know what? It's so funny that none of that really. you don't really think of those of that too much until like years later in the States touring and talking to musicians from the States, and they're talking about the troubles or whatever, and you're going. And I've mentioned this one. When the bomb went off Main Street in Bangor, I was on Dufferin Avenue, which is like 400 yards around the corner. And the windows come in round us, and they're all like, "Wait, what?" And it's only then that you go, I suppose that is weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
And until that, I hadn't really even thought about it.
Yeah.
It was just
normal life.
like God's honest truth. It's embarrassing to admit this, but at that age, it was sort of fun.
Yeah.
Was what we felt. It was like exciting. Mm-hmm. I didn't know about who was doing the bombing and why they were doing it. I just knew like it was like a power cut. Everyone's in the street and connecting.
Yeah.
It was kind of wild, and then
That's fun. I hear people tell stories up about the road, and they're like, we had no idea what was going on, but we just enjoyed the riots. We just had the crack with the riots. Like,
it's terrible.
It's so funny how like so many of our generation, or the older generation, just grew up with that as normality.
But we need to give them something better to do. We need to give them art.
I know. Yeah, absolutely. Well, talking about art then, like where did it come from for you? When did you begin, I guess, writing songs? When did you have a moment where you're like, like what's going on in my mind here? Like, I need to write this down. This is artistic. Or how? Like, where was the spark for you? Where did it come from?
It started too early for me to remember.
Really?
There's a tape. There's a tape that we sent from America in 1979 back to Ireland, and we're all sending our messages or whatever, and I'm singing this song. You light up my life. You give me hope. I'm singing this song, and my brothers go to join in. I would be what, 3, 4,
Crazy.
3 or 4, something like that. My brothers go to join in, and I stop singing and say, "No, I'm singing it. I'm shushing them, and then I'm back, and I've got to start it from the top again. You light up," and every time they join in, I get pissed off. Like, you're doing it wrong. So, no, I don't think there was ever a moment where
that's so powerful.
I was just always kind of singing and kind of doing my dad's head in. My son, all my kids did it, but my youngest boy does it the most, that thing that I did. He hasn't got the words, but he has the desire to sing a lot, so he just makes them up, so all his raps are like, and it's just that all day in the house. I kind of love it because it reminds me of, I know what I got from that personally, following that, but it also reminds me of those times when no one else in my house was doing that, and it annoyed a lot of people.
Yeah,
I think I was
like,
annoying.
Would you fuck up?
Yeah,
boy?
yeah.
And you're like, shh.
God's honest truth, I still get a lot of that in my household. I think it's important.
You probably
to have
sound
that.
a wee bit better now, though.
Well, it's not even about sound better. It's the consistency of it. I don't know I'm doing it. I don't know I'm doing it still. I get told to be quiet a lot. It's important that though in my line of work, that when you go back home and you open that door, that you're the least important person in the house.
Yeah. You're still playful with it all. Yeah. Having fun.
Yeah. That's good to go home and get told off.
Aye, 100%. We are proudly sponsored by That Prize Guy, the #1 prize competition in all of UK and Ireland. They have given away over 130 million in prizes so far. That Prize Guy has made 8 millionaires already, with number 9 pending. For your chance to be a winner, head on over to thatprizeguy.co.uk. So, you're growing up here. Like, when did you begin then, I guess, writing your own music? When did you start going, right, I'm going to start singing, I'm going to start gigging, I'm assuming? Like, when did that begin for you?
I was always singing, but I was pretty slow on the uptake with regards to anything happening locally. I was so far removed from any art scene. I didn't grow up around any other artists. I grew up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can open a 1990s Ford Escort with half a tennis ball. That's one of the skills I learned.
Yeah. Sounds like it's probably a good skill for back in the day.
Yep. Pop. That new set of locking wasn't worth a shit.
Could you still do it?
Probably. Get me an old
We'll see what's happening after this episode here. We'll head down the road.
I'm making myself
It'd be like,
sound
is that
worse than
fucking Foy Vance trying to break
No.
in the mic? Is that Paul Hughes standing behind? What's going
No,
on
no,
down
I
there?
never stole a car in my life. I did steal a Terence Trent D'Arby tape from a car that I broke into, but I'm really sorry about that.
Well,
If
that
I-
sums it all up then. You stole the tape
I
and
know
not
I
the
did.
car.
I know. Yeah, the car was shit.
And that was it.
I think it was like a Maestro or something. Anyway,
You
that's
wouldn't be seen
terrible.
dead driving it.
No. Oh, good Lord, I'm admitting too much about my misspent youth.
Not at all. Not at all.
So no, I didn't grow up around anyone that was like in a band or so. To me, singing was just the private joy. It was something that I did in the house, and my dad sang all the time. My dad was a fine singer,
Really?
and he taught me how to play guitar. And he liked singing as much as I did. He had the guitar out all the time. There was always music in the house, always.
Yeah.
But to me, that's what it was. It was something that we did in the house, and then family gatherings. My granny would sing, and my granda would sing.
Yeah.
Everyone would do something,
Do you think that's an Irish thing?
I mean, I think it's probably a poor thing. Is that-
Well, it could be an Irish
is
thing.
that what it is?
We're a very,
No, because
we-
you see it in Romania, you'll see that in
Yeah.
Croatia, you'll see that in I think you see it in everywhere. But yeah, I think the Irish, we're really good at it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're really
Yeah, they do it everywhere. We're just better at it. Yeah.
yeah, we're pretty good at it. Yeah, so that's what it was for a long time. I never made the connection with doing it outside of the house until I guess I was like 15, 16 and met some guys and joined a band called Morph in Donegal, and we joined it, and and I tried to write songs there, and I guess out of that I joined a covers band called Soul Truth. I was about 18, and I was in that band for 2 years. I think I turned 20 on stage at the front page. Do you remember the front page? Is it still there? And there was I was in that band for 2 years before I kind of realized, wait, this is all I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything else. And I'm surrounded by other people that are like in their 30s, and I've met other people that are musicians and they're in their 40s, and that's all they do. Wait, I
Yeah.
could do this for my life.
Okay.
It took me a minute to kind of really.
So you didn't even, when you were coming up, you were like, I want to be an artist full time. I want to do this. I want to do that. You were just kind of doing it for the love, and then it so happened that
Dude, I
were getting
still
paid?
don't know what I want to be.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure that out.
MMA fighter.
When I grow
That's
up, I'm
next.
fucker, let's fight. We'll have a wee fight. No, I do not want to be an MMA fighter. A friend of mine, Johnny.
NUFC
Yeah,
debut.
NUFC, yeah. Foy Vance and his balls out debut.
Sells 0 pay-per-views.
Yeah, dude, that would just be brr. You know what I mean? Who am I fighting? Me and Shane Todd?
And she and Todd.
Let's get it on.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you basically were like, right, I'm getting paid for this. I'm obviously got something.
I didn't even think about the got
Really,
something
you
bit.
still, even at that age, you didn't know like I can fucking sing, like.
Oh, I mean,
But
listen,
like,
I was
it's like a special talent. I'm not
I was-
a lot of people can sing here.
No, I mean, no. I mean, I think I was as cocky as any 18-year-old
Yeah.
that's in a soul band, and people are looking at him when he's on
Yeah,
stage, and I was drunk and high, and
Yeah,
being a rock
100%.
star, and then waking up in the morning going, oof, yeah, I got lost, I guess, in that for a bit, but when I woke up to like, well, you know what? I met a girl. That's probably what happened. My first wife. That's a joke. That's a joke. And don't worry about that. That's not even the real plan. I probably could. Yeah. Yeah. I met her, and she was an artist, and I started thinking about. I don't know. It wasn't that spending time with her. Or other artists that were going to college and the way they talked and all. It wasn't that they were telling me anything new. It was what they were talking about felt like it resonated with me. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, yeah, I agree. That's what this is about. That's what we're meant to be putting into this. It's so then I was still doing cover gigs, but I was trying to write songs, but it was all so contrived. It was all borrowed knowledge. It was all And I'm not being self-effacing or down on myself. It just wasn't good. It was really trying hard to be something.
Where you were still in the band at this time, so
Yes,
were you trying to fit kind of that thing,
I
that kind of
guess
image in a way?
I was trying to fit. I didn't know what I was trying to fit, I
Yeah.
guess. And
Yeah.
anytime I followed my heart in private, I wrote stuff that I was too embarrassed to play to other
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
So I was like, I don't even know what that is. I'll play you the one that's up and makes my voice sound here,
Yeah.
whatever. Um,
When did that change? When did
January
that
30th, 1999, at about 1:30 in the morning.
and what was that?
I was on stage in a club called the Jellyfish in Costa Teguise. I had married the first wife.
She who will not be named.
Oh, we'll name her. I was on stage at the Jellyfish. Me and my wife at the time had moved to Lanzarote. I got it in my mind that after you get married, you should go away for a year and just be away from everything and everyone and figure out what you're going to do. And I wanted to go away, and my idea was to be out there, sing in these crappy pubs in the evening, but use the days to try and write songs and come home with some songs and a plan to do something with it and really make my own music instead of singing others, which I liked enough, and I still enjoy singing other people's songs in private or whatever, but my own trying to articulate whatever it was I wanted to say was just caught me. But I didn't know how to say it, and I had nothing to say. And I was on stage in this club, and I was doing what I often do, making up a song to see if I could pass it off, because most nights people weren't really listening. They were just drinking, and it was end of the night. And it was the kind of club where I was allowed to play Nick Drake and John Martin and, Bruce Cockburn. They let me play whatever I wanted. So I was just vibing on this thing. And the lyrics were, Jesus is coming like a thief in the night. There's religion coming back. Jesus is coming like a thief in the night. And I kept singing it. And the only other words were crying in the night. Kept singing crying in the night. And on the drive home, Joanne, that's what you call her, she says, what was that song? What was the crying song? And I was like, I don't know, but yeah, it's kind of caught me too, like it caught me off guard and was sticking with me in a way that other songs hadn't. So I knew something was different about this, and I went home that night, and I did. I stayed up all night, and she was like, what's wrong with you? And I was crying profusely. I eventually got to sleep. I woke up in the morning. I found my lost phone under the front seat of my car. It had 14 missed calls, all from home. I called home. Turns out as I was getting that song, my dad was dying in bed in Bangor. I hung up the phone from my mum. There was a guy, Kevin, from Limerick there, staying with us. He said, I'm sorry, man. I didn't say anything. Joanne didn't say anything. I walked out the back. I lit up a Marlboro Red after having given up smoking for 6 days, and I penned the first song that really mattered. The whole thing is the first song that ever came in one thing, and it's the first song that actually said something that was real. Because words get in the way of the truth a lot. It's hard to get to the thing, the thing that you're trying to say. The words, they all too often get in the way of it, which is where singing helps. You can make words mean different things with tone. Anyway, this song came, and it was the first thread of truth. And on that day, I swore that I would make 7 albums. I was like, okay, I get it. I felt like I got a plan in exchange for my father's life. I got a song, a thread of truth, and a plan. The plan was 7 albums, and the plan was to live my life as best I could according to the poem If by Rudyard Kipling, which my father read to me on my bedside most nights before I went to sleep.
Do you remember it?
Not all of it without crying.
Yeah.
If you put it in front of me, yeah. When you can keep your head when all around you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, I believe that's how it starts. Hold your nerve when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. You'll know that one. Should we get it up?
Yeah.
Let's print it out. We'll read it at the end.
Yeah.
But
We'll end the episode on it. What's the name again? So
If Rudyard Kipling.
Yeah.
Rudyard space Kipling as in the cakes. I can tell you know what they are. It says you. Is he not on a regime like you know? Sorry, you look very fit. I don't even know why I said that. They don't know.
So
So yeah, I'm there
continue
in that
please.
moment. And yeah, I in that moment, honestly, it was as clear as day. If and 7 albums set out to do it. Set out to
Why
make
7?
give me the boy to the age of 7 and I'll give you the man. I felt if I make 7 albums, whatever I will have become will be that by then. Whatever I become at that point, I'll have defined something.
How many albums right now?
I finished the 7th album on the 30th of January 2025. 26 years, 7 albums in the wilderness.
Yeah. And
26 years to the day.
Are you the man?
Am I what?
Are you the man? That
Oh, listen, I don't know what I am, but whatever I am, this is what it is.
Yeah.
This is what it looks like.
Yeah.
Certainly musically. This record, it's not a pretty record. If this record was a fight, and I know you remember this fight, Dan Hooker and Poirier. Do you remember that fight?
Hectic. Beyond hectic.
Yeah, that's a brutal fight. Like there are moments in it you're going, I mean, all right, that was beautifully thrown, but
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Oh, it's a brutal, and this feels a little bit like that.
In what regard?
This is where words will get in the way of the truth. I don't know how to phrase this.
Yeah.
And I don't want to put too fine a point on it, but so like the songs were recorded in 5 days. And they were all just recorded live to tape. Just hit the tape roll and let's go. And I didn't know what we were singing when we were singing it. That was important. I had my painting station up. I was just making paint. I was just painting little colouring ins when I wasn't singing, and when I was needed to sing, let's go. And then I would get lost. I got lost in this world. And just let it. It was just so free, and it just let it be what it was, and it was reacting to what they were doing. It's like going in with a game plan is good. What's that classic Tyson quote? Everyone's got a game plan that they get punched in the face or punched in the mouth or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like going. It's sort of similar in that sense, like going in with a definitive game plan. All right, you.
No attachment.
You know what I mean? The blessing and the curse of going in with a game plan is you might get what you want, but what's the fun in that?
But if you have attachment to it, it can lead you up for failure also.
You know what I mean? It's like I wanted to go in and just be there, you know, and I want the songs. The only way for people to feel those songs when they hear them is if I felt them when I was delivering them, because that's the moment where they stop being a secret. You understand? That's where up to that moment, they're mine. No one knows about them. The world is mine. The entire world is mine. And those that have been around it. And then you share it with those in the studio. But the second you put that to tape, you know, you're saying that, there you go, that's what it is. And you got to be careful that's like a considered disregard type thing. It takes a lot of due current attention to sort of truly not give a fuck in that moment, to truly abandon and just be there. So I kind of approached it with that, and just put everything in it, and it felt scrappy, and it felt and it felt beautiful. I feel like it felt cathartic. I'll maybe tell you some of the other shit that happened off camera by the end of the week that was pretty wild, physically wild. It was just a wild fight. But not fight's a wrong word, actually. It was just a wild ride, and we were actually meant to record one more song on the 30th of January, which I didn't orchestrate the dates, by the way. It just happened to be this way. It happened to end on that day. I had just the most profound experience making this record. I just, you know, I've always felt a little bit like anything less and everything isn't enough. And I kind of proved that to myself on this record. I nearly did myself in. Sent myself round the twist with this one. And I was sitting there on that day thinking about going in to record this other song and listen through. And on about the fourth listen, it was clear as day. I packed up the house. I was meant to stay one more night. I was like, nah. Packed up, drove to the studio, walked in. I don't even think I said hello. I just said, here's my read. I wanted this album to feel like family members gathering at a wake, and it feels like you've met every single member of the family and put them in chronological order, surprises included. I don't know how you've done it, but my work here's done, and I'm going home. I'm going home. And I got in the car, and I had this, like, profound sense of, like the OCD guy in me was just so pleased with the completion of this project, and for it to complete 26 years to the day that I got it, that it began, was so, like, exquisite. It was beautiful, but it was also, quite frankly, fucking terrifying, because I was like, well, what now? What now? This is done now. That I've done the 7 record. What am I gonna do now? And I was, I drove up the road back home to Scotland that day, and I got something else. I got a new thread of truth. We'll leave that story there. But I got something else to work on for the next while.
Yeah. And you think, did that come from being, don't want to say released from that? Obviously not a burden of the 7 albums, but it's always something that you had in your head.
I think it was
Do you think that's
I think it was
like,
grief. I think what I was dealing with was grief. Yeah, I think
so. There is like a release from that to a degree.
Can I tell you something else that's really profound?
Yeah.
The amount of profound things that happened on this record, stars aligned, literally. Yeah, the amount of things that happened were, so on the 29th of January, 2025, the last day of the recording, wasn't meant to be, but turned out it was. I was recording the last song. It's a song called "I'm Not Celebrating." It was written about a situation, a couple. My second ex-wife. I'm getting good at it. It was written about that, and I couldn't get the song. I couldn't get it. No matter how I tried to get it, I just couldn't get it. And everyone in the room could feel it. I was singing in key. I was hitting all the right notes, but I wasn't there. And we stood outside and we had a chat, and we were like, what is it? He said, what is it for? And I was like, there's hope in it, and there can't be hope in it. There's no hope in the real situation, and I can't believe in it because there's hope. And he says, well, what would take the hope out? And I had to remove one word to make the song make sense. And the word was if. If. I had to remove the word if and exchange it for could, because the word if gave the song hope where there was no hope. And I didn't say anything to him in the moment. He just was talking about the word, but I knew that I was dealing with some deep grief. This was a thing that I was dealing with my dad. I was saying goodbye to something. Something was being done. And I realized that it's not like I don't feel like I'm over grief. Grief's a fucker, man. I don't feel like I'm over grief. I feel like what happened was I've entered the next stage. And I think that's what I learned in the van on the drive up. Was like
when you were leaving the studio.
Yeah, I got another project, and I think that project is a gift to say, here, okay, don't panic. Here's something else to focus on.
Yeah.
This will help make sense of the next bit.
Yeah.
That's made sense of that bit. That's what it felt like to me. It felt like those records were, exploring what it felt like to lose my dad at 23.
Yeah. We interrupt this episode to tell you about our amazing sponsor, the Record Room Hillsborough, where we are right now. The Record Room comes with all the equipment you need with multiple set options, whether you want to launch your own podcast or if your company needs to shoot its own marketing content. It is a one-stop shop for everything that you need. If this sounds like something that you need, use the booking link in the description, let yourself in, and hit record. So with these projects, and with the next one coming up and having completed, I guess, something that's been such a journey for you, is that like, are these projects like a way of healing for you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Because
I mean,
it's you're putting your soul out there. You're being vulnerable with it all. I'm sure you have to answer or ask yourself the questions whilst producing this all. I'm putting this out there. So
oh yeah, I'm not just
yeah,
tomato, potato,
yeah, of
tornado.
course, yeah, yeah.
No,
But I
no, I'm
find
being
that
lighthearted, but
fascinating, like how these projects are like your healing. You know.
oh, 100%. And I didn't design it that way. Listen, trust me, I would have loved to have been. I wanted to be Dr. John more than anything else. I wanted to be out there, want to have a good time. Whoop, and then my dad died, and I got that thread of truth. And it was the only truth that I knew. It was the only, I could do all the other stuff. I could make my voice sound a bit like that.
But that's
I
the
could sing a
truth.
bit bluesy. I could do all that shit.
Yeah,
But this was, I didn't have to think about how I was doing anything. It was just real. It was a connection. It was flow state, as you say, and that flow state, I've chased that ever since. And that's the only thing that stayed true. And so, yeah, music in that moment became. Up to that moment, I think I saw music as a vehicle to get me somewhere, to give
yeah,
me a life that I could have, or
yeah.
not on the outside, but subconsciously, I think I maybe felt a bit in that way. But that distilled the process completely for me. It was like, oh no, it's a life raft. You know what I mean? Where would you be if it wasn't for martial arts?
The answer is I really wouldn't know. I really wouldn't know because I found it at 15 years old. So I've essentially grown up with it in a way where, like, the person that I am now, sitting with you, I've become this person because of martial arts and because of my journey. But as you say, probably having to get to know myself, because it's ultimately, as we talk about it, is that truth. Like, that's where you're performing the best, is when you're going deep like that, and yeah, I don't know where I would be. I don't know where I would be. I don't know what life would be like if I didn't go for it.
Were you scrappy before you got into martial arts?
Depends what you define as scrappy, because I grew up playing Gaelic and hurling and soccer.
Well,
I
that's
so
it. Yeah.
I would have been so tough and I would
Yeah.
have been so scrappy on the pitch. Like
Aye.
all of my coaches, they used to love me because I had no quit in me, like I still do today, but I always left it all out there on the pitch. That was always me. I was always a little bit smaller growing up, and I always had that, I guess, chip on my shoulder. So like, I got to prove to them, that I am tough. Like an older brother, 2 years older, would have been hanging out with his friends, and I always wanted to play with them. So I had to be tougher.
Mm-hmm.
So I always had that kind of thing to prove. So whenever I found MMA, it was, I guess, it became like the ultimate form of competition. So I had that kind of competitiveness in me, and then when I found MMA, I was like, it doesn't get any better than this, like in terms of pure leaving it all out there competition.
But why? But I'm intrigued. Like, if you weren't getting into fights off the field, were you into were you into Bruce Lee movies? Like, what was the first thing that got? Why did you go to a gym? Was it jiu-jitsu? Was it karate? Was it what?
It was actually MMA day one.
Day one MMA.
Day one MMA. I would have loved like the likes of Rocky and films like that. Any film that was like kind of fighting related, I always loved it.
Yeah.
I just had an affinity to I guess.
Most
I enjoyed
wee boys
that
do,
because I was like a fighter in a regard that like I was smaller, so like I had to prove myself. And then I think finding MMA, as I say, obviously the ultimate competitions, but coming up, you're gonna be insecure as all teenagers are. And when I found out how to handle myself and look after myself, it just developed me so much as a person because I kind of got rid of them insecurities then. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
So it wouldn't have been like, I wouldn't have been fighting outside, like on the street or even on the, since I've started in May 15, I haven't had like anything
Oh well, you
on
wouldn't.
the street.
You wouldn't when you do that because the teachers you done it.
Absolutely,
do.
but it's not in my character at all. I'm not a confrontational person in any regard. I'm the complete opposite. It's kind of funny how I'm a fight professionally for a living, like, but it's not me. But it's MMA is it's certainly now it's just completely shaped who I am. Like, yeah, that's my art. How I find myself essentially.
And I think it's. I'm taking the kids. The kids, my boys do. They train Thursdays.
Jiu-jitsu or
no, just
kickboxing
boxing
or
at the minute.
boxing?
Marcus
Yeah.
of Queensbury.
Okay.
I'd be a fan of that. I'm a
Yeah.
fan of it all, obviously, but that was the original. You know, was like, yeah. My dad was a big fighter, a big fight fan. Sorry,
Yeah.
boxing fan. You know,
Yeah.
and he was like, you know,
Would you have watched fighting growing up? You and your dad?
yes,
Aye. Boxing?
all
I'm
yeah,
assuming.
all
Yeah.
the big fights,
Yeah,
all the
who
big
would you
fights,
have watched?
and he would have all the Tyson obviously would
Yeah.
have been the big ones. McGuigan in his
Yeah.
day, you know, yeah, all of them, all of yeah, Duran, yeah, my dad watched them all, and he was always kind of talking about, now that guy's a fighter, but this guy's a pugilist. Watch him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, watch.
Yeah.
What's there's a difference here.
Mm-hmm.
If he's going to win, it's because it gets scrappy, and but he's going to outbox him probably.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so he kind of put a bit of game in it. I realized, oh, there's more than meets the eye going
Yeah.
on here. I was
Yeah.
fascinated with it, yeah. But I want my kids to do it because it's like, it's the discipline of it, isn't it, and the kind of the respect that, well, not all people maintain that respect. You have fair play to you.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
You have
Appreciate
fair
it.
play to you. Oh, mate, no, listen. Yeah, you're doing us all justice, especially
Yeah.
that bullshit with Connor, that back and forth.
Yeah.
You handled it all like a champ, as you handled
Appreciate
it
it.
all along the way like a champ. The Jordan Vucinic thing,
Yeah.
like a champ. All those moments, people see that, I see that, we watch that, and we
Mm-hmm.
go, that's what it looks like to have genuine respect. To go and beat the living shit out of someone and then show them respect.
Yeah.
And
I
you know,
appreciate
it means a lot. It means a lot,
Yeah.
especially I thought how Connor reached out, and this is not a Connor slating session at
Yeah.
all, because I think that's a worry. I don't know. I wouldn't want to be in his position for love and money. It's a unprecedented territory,
Definitely.
right? Who coming from where he
agree
came
more.
from to go to what he is. It's like
Wouldn't want it.
no. So I'm not making any aspersions or judgments on his mindset. I'm just saying what he said was fucked, and your response was pure fucking class and pure
Yeah.
respect. I loved it.
Appreciate
I
it.
loved it.
Yeah.
We all did, man. We all
Appreciate it.
did.
Yeah. It's a new thing to navigate now, the position that I'm now seeing myself in. It's one I'm trying my very best to navigate well. As I say to you, I'm not like a confrontational person anyway, so I guess that helps. But I think one of my greatest assets now going forward to where the position I'm finding myself is now actually coming from here, and more importantly, my mom and dad and how I was raised. Like, they're just great people. I've never heard them talk shit about anybody ever. It just wasn't in my house. They just weren't gossipers. They always treated people well. And I think that's one of my greatest assets is
Yeah.
the fact that I had that. Now, navigating this now, because this industry that I'm in and how social media and all, how everything is now, it's predicated on, like, I guess, the madness and getting clicks and doing things in order to get clicks and doing things at weigh-ins, doing this and that, talking shit and posting videos. And it's so incentivized for me to do that in my craft now. Like, it's so, like the McGregor stuff, that could have easily been, I could have just went and done a back and forth and done a beat and a call out and this and that. And no doubt there'll be millions more people in the world that would know my name. Same as like likes of Usman, you know, we talked about it just off the podcast a few days before the fight. He's basically he's essentially he's essentially offered me on, you know, to like, let's go here. Now, as we talked about, many people didn't know that there was 40 Dagestanis behind him, so of course he's gonna say that.
Oh, your face off and
That word, yeah. But the point I'm making is, like, we're so incentivized for that kind of clicks game. Like, I'd make more money if I had probably done these beefs and pushed him and then McGregor beef and all this. If I had played that game, but then, as we talked about, that's not my truth. That's not my truth. And people, I think when you get into these circles, you kind of think, you know, people they'll believe that this is all real. They almost think that people are stupid. People aren't stupid. They can see through bullshit. They can see if you're not being yourself. So I said to myself a long time ago, even before I was getting more popular, like, I'm just gonna do me and live my truth and be my truth so I can be happy with myself.
Mate, the universe
you know?
worked it out for you.
And isn't
You
that
just
funny
beat
though?
the guy.
But isn't that funny how it all worked out then?
Yeah.
It worked out even better.
Yes, no, it did.
McGregor's situation is a perfect example of how something that turned out that started so negative, like the clip and then the tweets and all this, ended up flipping and being like unbelievably positive for me because people then took my side, and now I've got a nation of people behind me that actually like me, and not just this character of me, or this Paul with the dial turned up version, like fighter Paul. They like me. So like I appreciate you saying that, and because it does mean a lot. I'm trying to navigate it well. No doubt I'm gonna make mistakes as well. There are big points I'm sure people will hate me. It comes with the territory.
Do you know
but
what?
I'm just gonna try to do me. And
I
if people
can't
hate
see
me,
you going. I can't see you going that far off the rails.
but
You know what I mean? Whether
it
you're
depends
surrounded by
what
good
level
people.
of fame you get to, because no matter if you get to a certain level, people are gonna hate you regardless. But as long as I know, and this is why I thought it was so important for me to navigate it in that way of just doing me.
Yeah.
So at least I know that, I'm getting all this hate or whatever at some point. At least I know I'm still doing me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I can live with that truth. You know?
I hear you.
Yeah.
Preaching to the choir. I feel the same. So why there's no point jumping through hoops for anyone, because then
Yeah.
if you jump through the hoops and you win, you feel a bit.
Yeah.
Kind of got it, but I had to jump through your hoops to do it.
Yeah. Have you always kind of been averse to that? Like, because no doubt in your position and everything you've done in your career, like you've toured worldwide with friggin' Ed Sheeran, like you've done and toured yourself solo for over a decade. Like, how like a long time, maybe 2 decades.
I don't know. I'm 50 now, so
Like,
what's
no
that?
doubt you could have went in that, I guess, would you call it like an industry route, or like something that wasn't true to you?
I would be lying if I said the major labels were bang. They were all at my door going, "Please sign with us." No, that was never. I came at it too late. I got my first thread of truth, as you know, at 23 years old, and I didn't release my first album until 32. It took me a long time to get songs that I felt were worth putting out or whatever. Shit, I've completely forgotten the question.
I was just basically asking you, like, you would have had coming up in your career, like opportunities that maybe weren't weren't you, that weren't your truth, is what I'm saying. Because as it comes with the terror, you'll have more options and more offers. Like, was it for you? Did you always kind of think my art is more important than anything else?
Yeah, there was one situation where I realized it. I think where it was like I can go either way here. I was at a meeting with a major label who were interested, and I had a deal on the table. It was a half decent deal. It was half decent money, but they wanted me to work with someone that was. To cut a long story short, he mentioned about me working with someone. And I thought in that moment, I can either hold my tongue, take the money, and try and navigate this situation as much to my own way as possible, or I can just tell him what I think of his idea and be honest. I told him what I thought, and then the dinner was over and the deal was off the table. But I went away happy.
Yeah, well,
I went away going, well,
is.
you know what, that's all right. And I set up my own record label called Word of Mouth. The whole point, the idea being, well, if I go out and play, and if I'm good enough, then the next time I come back and play, word of mouth will have spread.
Yeah.
You can't fight that, or you can't argue with that.
Yeah.
You can argue with poster campaigns, but you can't argue with people telling people this was good. I went there and it was good. I went to a Paul Hughes fight and he kicked ass and he hauled and he had the place. I'm going back again, same, right? So I left incentivized. I was like, actually, I don't know if I need that.
Yeah.
Don't know how much of that industry thing you need.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
anyway. You gonna fight McGregor? What would it be, like 205?
This is the official call out video right here.
What weight's he at now? But he's like heavyweight now. He looks
fucking
massive.
gobshite weight, whatever that is.
Oh dear.
So like we're talking about the art there and doing your own thing. So I was just at your show there in November in the Opera House. I wanted to ask you about that, the idea and the premise of this show, because I absolutely loved the show. I thought it was amazing. So how you ran the show was essentially 3 nights, right?
Yeah.
But before or something like that.
I think it was
whatever.
Six shows in 3 days. But who's
Oh,
counting?
you done? Okay.
Don't worry about
Sorry.
that. No one's counting.
and I call myself a fan. But the idea of the show was you were having a comic perform before you came out. So I wanted to ask, where did that idea come from?
I have always loved comedy.
Because
As you know,
there's again music, comedy fighting again. So
comedians and fight. I mean, comedians more so now than ever. I mean, comedians have always been on the edge and needing to push the envelope. But in a climate like today, when the envelope's like here, and anything you say is like pushing it, it's like, so they're out there. The ones that are really out there, they're laying it on the line. They're going, I'm going to say it because it's funny and it makes you laugh. I don't even know if I think it. It's just making people laugh half the time, right? There's something admirable in that. Just it's the trueness of the aim. I think it's just that someone that's just the singular. I think that's what I like. The singularity of a fighter. It's just you, and there's only you to think about there. And a comedian, it's just him and the thing. And there's something in that I love. Just me on stage, and I think that's why it was a request night as well. Well, it was a request night for lots of reasons. Me and my manager have been spitballing about ideas, but I wanted it to feel like a to and fro, like a conversation. Because when people usually shout for requests at my shows,
you're like, fuck off, would you?
I look like a jukebox to you, mate. Or I come up with some stupid quip, because I'm
You're used to it.
I guess I just want to play what I'm playing next. I haven't changed since I was 3. It's like, no, I'm singing it, and this is what I'm singing next.
Yeah.
I can't change it.
Yeah. It certainly felt like a back and forth for the audience. There was such a connection with the audience. Yeah. Because of the start of the show as well. With the night I was there, Shane Todd was performing, and he was obviously walking around the place and talking to people. Or no, sorry, that was for your part of the show. But the intimacy of that, and then he's doing a lot of crowd work. He's not doing his set that he'll do wherever. He's doing crowd work most of the time. But it's the involvement and the connection with the audience because I was interested to see how it would going from comedy to music, because it was it a risk? Would you have seen it as like, oh, this might not work?
No, I seen it working.
Yeah.
I saw it work. Yeah.
Because how that then primed you for your show. But anyone who's been to one of your shows knows that half of it's a comedy show in a degree anyway, not because the music, just
because your lyrics
just because you're shit. No, because you have the crack on stage, like you're enjoying it, and people are shouting things out and you're giving them guff back. There's a comedy aspect to it there, and that's what people love about your shows and your style too. So I thought the show was it was so entertaining, and especially, like as I mentioned, Shane was there, and he's at like the top of his game right there. Man's been stand-up comedy for 18 years, and I was just in awe of it, of the whole thing, of like him at the peak of his art, and just how good it was, the crowd work, and how fast it was, and then you coming out and doing your show on top of the game. Just it was such a good experience, and then the element of bringing the audience into the show as well, and essentially people they could request their songs as long as they had a good story behind it. Was that the first time you had done a show like that?
Yeah, first time. I'm going to do it again though.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was so good.
So did I got more out of it than I expected to, quite honestly. There's a few nights where I didn't always get a chance to read through all the stories before I would go on. And there was a couple of nights where I would start a story on stage and I'd be telling jokes and be lighthearted, and then the story would get pretty heavy. Yeah. And you'd be like, ooh. So it was like, it just had such an interesting flow. It was very real. Then people are in the room. It's like, oh, everyone's there. It's like, oh, what happens next? And now it's like I'm reading a paragraph from a novel or something, but it's actually someone's life who sat there and wants to hear a song. It just made it all sparkle a bit. It was like made it real. Yeah. And I was aware of it and going, oh, okay, not an overbearing responsibility, but like a, okay.
Well, it was, people were really sharing their stories. Like some of these songs have, like, and this is what I really wanted to ask you about, is like, so the night that I was there, the last song, so people obviously were standing up giving their stories behind the song, but the last song of the night, a lad had stood up and requested Guiding Light, but the story behind it, his mother had just passed away, and that was essentially their song, but she was supposed to be there with him that night.
Yeah, I
And
remember.
I remember it was like anyone else. Shane was doing it was like anyone else got a question. The guy popped up right away, and you could see the intensity of how he was looking. I think you said something like, "You better give him the fucking night. He looks intense," or something, like joking around. But it got up to him, and he just gave this story, and he just put his heart out in front of everybody. And was like, "This song, like my mother was supposed to be with us here tonight, and she didn't make it, and I would love for you to play Guiding Light to finish." And you finished with that song. But the question I wanted to ask you was like, how do you ever reflect or think about like how deeply meaningful a song like that can be to somebody or to a family, something that has came from your soul and like essentially your trauma, as we've discussed. Like, do you ever reflect on that and how that pain has turned into so much, I guess, solace for certain people?
I'm reflecting on it right now because you're
Yeah.
bringing it up, but no, I don't often sit and think about it.
Yeah.
No, but I am aware, like, yeah, when that these songs, it's very easy coming from where we come from. Someone pays you a compliment, and you're like, ah, sure,
Yeah.
we're shade anyway.
Yeah.
It's like play it down. Don't worry
But
about
that's
it.
like a surface level. Like, yeah, oh yeah, thank you. Like, I'll get that, but you don't think about it. Like when I meet people and they say, oh, like they're so blown away. You can't. You take it with a pinch of salt. You can't think about it too much. But
Yes.
I often think about like the energy behind that of what, like that song that's came from within you, but it's not just that family. It's many people from every corner of the globe is deeply affected on that, and you're in a way like raising their energy levels or helping them in like a deep meaningful way. That's what I wanted to ask you about.
That's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
I'm sending those vibes.
I can feel the vibes.
Wow. I mean, what a wonderful way of explaining it. But yeah, songs are incredible, aren't they? I mean, I have those that, songs that I put on of artists that they're an entire world, right? They're universes, and yeah, it's not lost on me that these songs mean things to other people. I don't think about it much unless I'm told about it. But anytime I'm told about it, I try to remind myself not to poo poo it or to make fun of in that moment. It is actually, you're actually being arrogant there. You know what I mean? There's nothing humble about that, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're not. They're trying to tell you something.
Yeah.
Just shut up.
Yeah.
And listen.
Yeah. So
Um,
so that song, for example, that guy we're talking about, like that was literally his guiding light or his family's guiding light. Is there any songs that you have that are your guiding light?
well, I'm getting late.
Yeah.
I wrote it.
That's it, folks. Anyway, that's all we need.
You know what I mean? I can't even remember who it was. It was maybe Tom Waits said, I just write the music I want to hear. So yeah, that song, because that song for me, that's been a lot of things to a lot of people, and quite frankly, to me, it's I guess you could, some people would call it God. I was thinking it was song actually was what was my guiding light was. That was I'd released Hope, the first album, and then for 7 years did nothing until I wrote about nothing, The Joy of Nothing, that album, and one of the first songs to come for The Joy of Nothing was Guiding Light, and it was like I was searching. I was going, what am I searching for? And I felt like I got that melody came, and that was what I was searching for. It was like I was looking for that. You want to get to the place where I want to get to the place where I don't even know I'm writing a song. You know what I mean? It's not even about writing a song. It's just about experiencing what's happening. And then the song sort of comes out of that.
Yeah.
I often describe it like songs are a little bit like cats. Like if you pay too much attention, they just don't like it. But if you just mind your own business, they'll be up with their tail around your leg, feed me. Feed me. Is there any milk in here?
Clip that. Clip that and send it back to me. Anytime he's talking shit, I can just send it to him.
Yeah, I don't know. What was I saying? Something about songs being cats. I don't know.
You're letting essentially let the song breathe. Don't
Yeah,
be too much.
just following a
Yeah.
melody, following a thread, following until before you know what the songs are,
Yeah.
and that's what that song came out of, just me following melody, and
Yeah.
that was my guiding light. It was like,
Yeah.
this
Amazing.
melody, this is what gets me home singing,
Yeah.
gets me home every time,
Amazing.
no matter what I'm feeling. I've had people die on me, I've had wives leave, I've had all kinds of stuff happen, and every time singing heals it, guaranteed.
Wow.
Boom, done, job done.
Yeah.
Singing helps.
Mad. So like the song Guiding Light, like obviously Ed Sheeran got on that song
He did,
as
yeah.
well. I want to know like how did you just cross paths? Where did that come from?
We had a mutual friend, Michael Leckie, a photographer from here actually. And Michael gave Ed my email, and Ed emailed me. This is before I had released Joy of Nothing. And he sent me A Team and another song, and he was talking about co-writing. And I hadn't co-written with anyone at that point. I didn't really understand why he would even do it or what it was about. So I got back and I was going, these are great, man. These, you've got your own vernacular and I like it, but I don't know if I'm your, I don't really write with other people. And I don't even know if I would be of any use to you because the way you write's different the way I write. But shit, this is great. Good luck. And we kind of kept in contact. And then he invited me out on the tour.
But sorry to interrupt. He hadn't released A Team at that point.
No, I think it was just coming out.
Okay,
I think that record was
his
just
first
coming
big
out.
song. Interesting. And then how did it end up to you going on world tour with him?
Well, he sort of we kept in contact on email, and we were like chatting back and forth, and then on Arthur's Day in Dublin at Whelan's Bar, I was playing. There's footage of it, and I wish there wasn't. I was hammered drunk, singing Hallelujah. Like, it sounds like someone took it and slowed it down by 180%. It's brutal. I met him that night, and we sat up to 5 a.m, song sharing, and I fell out with his tour manager. And I think it was there. He maybe said, "Will you come on tour with me?" And I was like, "Aye,
you're fucking right.
all right, well, man, aye." Well,
Where's it at, mate? He was
Where's
like,
it?
all these
where
stadiums
the
around
pop
the
stars
world.
gig? Anyway, I'd be there.
Just this 60,000 seater stadium.
No,
and
at that
then-
stage he was doing like 5,000 seaters was the biggest.
Oh,
rooms.
really?
I think he
okay.
could have sold more than that, but
Yeah.
it was like
was keeping it.
It was just
Yeah.
starting to really pop. We did some venues that I don't think we did any as small as 2,000, but we did like around the 5,000.
Yeah.
But the thing there was, when he invited me on that tour, I thought, I mean, what's a 38-year-old guy singing about nothing? When am I going to get invited on a tour with a bona fide pop star? I should 100% go just for the crack. So I did.
Most
but-
Irish thing ever.
I know, right?
It's like, I'm not that good, but I'll go for the crack.
It's like, well, this would be great. I don't know how your audience are going to take to me. And,
Yeah.
I don't think they took to me very well, to be honest. But well, I enjoyed it. But before I went on the tour, I split up with the first wife, and I called him and I was like, dude, long story short, I was like, I've got my kid. I've got a 9-year-old girl with me, and I don't know if I'm going to make this tour. And he said, bring her.
No way.
I said, what? Are you sure? He's like, aye, bring her. There's room in the bus. We'll just bring her. I was like, okay. So that to me, that there was a time where I was about to be, 1 minute I was going on this wild tour adventure with this kid, and then I was dealing with this wild reality at home that my life was falling apart. And then suddenly I've got the kid, and me and the kid are off on the road for a year and a half, just traveling around going. So Ed became something to me that is beyond, he's like a wee brother, it's just like that. For him to have done that, it's sort of, I don't know that it meant much to him. He was just like, that's fine, no big deal. But to me, that was a lot. Like, if he wakes me up at 4 o'clock in the morning and says, I can't explain it, but I need your right sock, it will be in the post 20 minutes later. That's where we're at because of what he did there. What he represents to me and Ella, us as a family.
It must have been so crazy for Ella to do that.
Yeah, it was wild. She was 9 years old, waking up every morning on a tour bus beside Rizzle Kicks and Ed Sheeran. And mate, we played London, and Harry Styles and Niall Horan were there. I think maybe the other ones, I can't remember. Those two were definitely there. And Ella was getting pictures with them, and all Ed was bringing around and going, and Niall was like, listen, we're playing. You live up in Glasgow with your daddy, or up outside. We're playing Glasgow. Why don't you come down to the show? We'll get you AAA tickets. We'll look after you and your daddy. And Ella said, oh, thanks, but I think I'm on tour. He came straight out and told me, he says, is that your kid?
Definitely your kid.
Yeah, I go, "Oh, that's my girl." He goes, she's funny as fuck. Yeah.
I'm on tour, lad. Sorry.
Yeah, no, oh, thanks, but I think I'm on tour.
Oh,
Yeah.
crazy, mate. What a journey.
Yeah, no, she had a wild ride for sure.
Yeah, what a
and so
journey.
did I. It was right. I never wrote with anyone until that moment with Ed. That's the first time I ever wrote with another person, and I didn't even know we were doing it. We were hanging out, and he was going, sing that again, and what if it was this and that, and then I didn't think about it until a year later, and he was like, they're on records. Those songs are on records. I just kind of didn't even know.
Mad.
Yeah.
Mad. Mate. Unreal. What a journey. What a journey. I'm feeling so... I really enjoy this. I really fucking enjoy this.
We've probably
so
gone way
honoured.
over time, have we? Is everyone like... This is like Joe
well-
Rogan cast
Well,
here.
it's funny because their cameras will overheat at some point, so I'm thinking if this overheats, that might not be good. But mate, I just want to thank you so much for coming in. I thoroughly enjoyed this.
Likewise, mate.
That was yeah. I really appreciate it, mate. Really appreciate it.
No, it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm kind of, I want to be delicate with this because I don't know how you're, but you know, it's like, it was like the world was watching. We all saw that fight. We all saw the Usman fight. I had no disrespect to him or his team or any of that stuff, but just like we all saw it. That's gotta feel good, mate.
Here,
Like it wasn't the W, it wasn't the hand raise, it wasn't the dream. But I wonder, is it better than the dream?
I think it's better whenever
I
I
think
think
it
the
might
second
be.
time.
I think it might
I
be.
think the stars align even more as we talked about
Aye.
the star. I think look, see recently. See thinking back to like the hand injuries and things like this, and then my decision to sign with PFL and all of the things that happened around that decision. There was so much around that. I've realized like deeply that like everything actually does happen for a reason. I used to always be like, yeah, but like it's just a figure of speech. Like I understand why people utilize that as a psychological technique to feel better about this and that. I've realized that everything does happen for a reason. I have faith in that now. And I think not getting my hand raised that night was supposed to happen because I think it set me up for something so much bigger.
It's kind of like if this was a movie, that's cooler.
Yeah.
You standing there with the blood out of your head going,
I know.
Where
the
are you,
scar?
mate?
See the scar?
I do, I know, saw it when I
sick.
come in. But you know what I mean? But everything about that, we saw the fight and we saw the offer to run it back real quick and him going to a very long training camp to get ready for the next rematch. I'm assuming there is a rematch. You haven't said anything. I'm not trying to
there
get
will
you to
be.
say.
There will be.
Yeah, you'd like to think so.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, we all see it. He's away now, working very hard, and so he should.
Yeah.
But so are you, no
Yeah,
doubt. You know.
absolutely.
So I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah,
I'm glad to be
appreciate
here before you before the Conor McGregor fight. Can I sing you in the Conor McGregor fight?
100%.
Yeah. Or can me and Shane do NUFC on the undercard?
Done. I'll talk to my manager. We'll get it done. But Foy, thank you, brother. I
My
appreciate
pleasure,
it.
honestly.
That concludes today's episode. If you enjoyed it, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. But thank you.
Slam.
Let's go. Slan away, yeah. Damn right I do.
Where is it?
Damn right I do. No, we're still rolling. How long? We're still rolling. I almost forgot. It's called It.
Oh, here.
If.
Do you know what?
Come on, Foy. Hit us.
What if I get it on a phone and then it's then I
it's
can
handy.
hide it in your wee book?
Yeah. Hold on, I'll just close down Pornhub here. Fuck, we're still rolling, aren't we?
Good man. Let me see. This poem is the shit. You ready?
I'm ready.
If by Rudyard Kipling. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up with worn out tools, if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss and lose, start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss, if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son.
Wow.
Get a lock of that into you.
Wow.
What about that?
That's brilliant.
Isn't that wild?
Brilliant.
Beautiful.
Brilliant. Beautiful.
Remarkable poem.
And your dad used to read that to you?
Every chance he got, he would recite it.
Man.
He'd say, that's how you should live your life.
Yeah. It's a good framework. Live your life, I tell you that.
Yeah.
It's a good framework.
Yeah. You're not setting a bad example yourself there, young Paul Hughes. Keep her lit.
We're doing all right.
Keep her lit. Knock a piss out of them, mate.
Fucking right.
Knock our balls
Knock
out.
his content. Knock his content. Sick, bro. Sick. Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That us there?
That's us, brother.
Beautiful.
Mate, thank you so much.